The LS6 should have lost. Every magazine in 1970 said the Hemi was unbeatable. Every Mopar guy at every stoplight believed it. They were wrong. What happened in 1970 on the drag strips of America was so one-sided that Chrysler engineers quietly went back to the drawing board, and GM never officially admitted what they'd built. Tonight we settle it with real quarter-mile slips, real dyno sheets, real history. The 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 versus the 426 Hemi Road Runner. The drag strip doesn't lie, and neither do we. Let's go back to January 1970. Detroit is at war. The horsepower race has been escalating for 6 years straight. Every Big Three brand is throwing displacement at the problem like it costs nothing. Mopar had ruled superstock with the Hemi since 1964. 6 years of domination, 6 years of every competitor eating its dust. Then GM made a decision that changed everything. They lifted the internal displacement ban. For one model year, 1970, Chevrolet was allowed to put a full 454 cubic inches into the Chevelle. And they didn't just drop a truck engine in, they built the LS6. The LS6, 450 horsepower, 550 pound-feet of torque. Factory rated, those numbers are conservative, and we're going to prove it. Now let's talk about what the LS6 actually was under the hood. Rectangular port cylinder heads, the same architecture as the all-aluminum ZL1 that dominated Can-Am. Solid lifter camshaft, 11.25 to 1 compression. Holley 780 CFM double pumper sitting on top of an aluminum intake. This engine breathed. 4-bolt main caps, forged steel crankshaft, forged aluminum pistons. This was not a passenger car engine wearing a muscle car badge. This was a purpose-built weapon. Motor Trend tested it in February 1970. Their words, not mine. The most powerful passenger car engine ever offered to the American public. But power on paper means nothing at the strip. We know that. Now the Hemi. Let's give the devil its due. The 426 Hemi is one of the greatest racing engines ever produced by an American manufacturer. Full stop. Conceived in secrecy in 1963, debuted at Daytona in 1964. Richard Petty won. Plymouth swept the top 5 spots. NASCAR banned it within the same year. That's how good it was. By 1970, the street Hemi was rated at 425 horsepower, but every dyno that ever touched one, independently, read over 500. Chrysler was sandbagging, and they knew it. Hemispherical combustion chambers. That's the whole secret. The dome-shaped chamber puts the spark plug dead center. Maximum flame travel efficiency. The charge burns cleaner, faster, and more completely than any wedge design Detroit had ever built. Dual 4-barrel carburetors on a cross-ram intake. Individual throttle bores for each barrel. This engine was greedy for air and fuel. 10.25 to 1 compression, slightly lower than the LS6, but the Hemi didn't need high compression. It made its power through flow. Now here's where it gets complicated. The Hemi and a Road Runner weighed more, significantly more. The 1970 Road Runner with the 426 Hemi tipped the scales at right around 3,800 pounds with a driver. The Chevelle LS6 with a Muncie 4-speed closer to 3,600. Almost 200 pounds on a drag strip. That is a lifetime. But here's what the Hemi guys never want to hear. The Hemi cost $837 as an option. $837 in 1970 money. Most buyers didn't tick that box. The LS6 was standard equipment in the SS 454 package. You didn't pay extra for the weapon. Now, the quarter mile. This is where we settle it. Car and driver, April 1970. They tested the Chevelle SS 454 LS6 with the Muncie close ratio 4-speed and street tires. No prep, no slicks, street legal. 13.8 seconds, 101.2 miles per hour on street tires in a car that weighed over 3,000 pounds. Let that land. Superstock and Drag Illustrated got their hands on an LS6 the same year with better traction and a dialed-in driver. 13.4 at 108. 108 miles per hour through the traps in a stock automobile. The LS6 was making substantially more than the advertised 450 horsepower. Nobody doubted gutted it. Now the Hemi numbers. Motor Trend tested the 1970 Road Runner 426 Hemi with a 4-speed 13.54 at 105.1. Faster elapsed time than some LS6 runs. But look at that trap speed, 105 versus 108. The Hemi was running out of breath at the far end. Trap speed is horsepower. Elapsed time is torque off the line. The LS6's torque advantage launched it hard. Its top-end breathing kept it pulling all the way through. Here's what the numbers tell us when you strip out the variables. Equal drivers, equal conditions, equal traction. The Chevelle LS6 runs consistent high 13s to low 13s. The Road Runner Hemi runs mid 13s. In a race that takes 14 seconds total, 3/10 is not close. 3/10 of a second is roughly 18 feet. The Hemi Road Runner crosses the line in the Chevelle's rearview mirror. Now some of you are already typing in the comments. What about the automatic? What about the Torque Flight? Fair, let's talk about that. The Torque Flight 727 automatic was actually a strong choice for the Hemi. Better torque multiplication off the line. Faster shifts than most drivers could manage with a 4-speed. Road Test Magazine, 1970. Hemi Road Runner with the automatic. 13.50 at 106. Still behind the LS6's trap speed. Still losing on the top end. The LS6 with turbo hydromatic, Carcraft clocked 13.44 at 106 in a mule test mule. The automatic actually helped the LS6 too. No matter how you configure both cars, 4-speed against 4-speed, automatic against automatic, the Chevelle SS 454 LS6 wins. So why did everyone think the Hemi was king? Because Chrysler's racing program built the narrative first. From 1964 to 1969, the Hemi owned Superstock, factory-altered Pro Stock. The wins were real, the dominance was real, the legend was earned. But 1970 changed the equation. The LS6 wasn't incrementally better. It was a generational leap, and GM only let it exist for 1 year. The 1971 emissions regulations gutted it. Compression dropped to 8.5 to 1. The solid lifter cam was gone. The LS6 was neutered on paper before it could be fully understood. 4,475 units. That's all they built. 4,475 LS6 Chevelle in 1970. The Hemi got 1,920 Road Runner installations that year. Both are rare. One is rarer and one is faster. Now here's the question nobody asked at the time. Why didn't GM race the LS6 in NHRA competition? Because GM's corporate racing ban was still in effect. Since 1963, GM divisions were officially prohibited from factory-sponsored motorsport. The LS6 was a weapon with no army to deploy it. Chrysler had an entire factory drag racing infrastructure, engineers at the track every weekend. The Hemi's results were documented, promoted, and published. The LS6 had to prove itself through civilian road tests and privateers. And still, the LS6 won. Without a factory racing program, without official NHRA support, it won because the engine was simply better. Vince Piggins knew it. He was the man inside Chevrolet who pushed the LS6 through against corporate resistance. He called it the finest production engine General Motors has ever built. He was not wrong. Now, legacy. What are these cars worth today? Because the market doesn't lie either. A numbers-matching 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 with documented build sheet. We're talking $800,000 to well over $1 million at auction today. That is not a typo. A correct documented 1970 Road Runner 426 Hemi 4-speed, $600,000 to $900,000. Still incredible money, but the Chevelle commands the premium. The market has spoken the same verdict the drag strip spoke in 1970. The LS6 is the rarer, faster, and, by auction results, more valuable machine. What did this war do to Detroit? It accelerated the end of the muscle car era faster than anyone predicted. Insurance companies were already treating high-compression big blocks as liability. By 1971, the surcharges on cars like the LS6 made them financially irrational for most buyers. Then the EPA tightened emission standards. Then the oil crisis hit in 1973. The golden age didn't just fade, it was strangled from 4 directions at once. The LS6 existed for exactly 1 model year, 1970, 1 year of production, 1 year of absolute dominance. Then it was gone. The Hemi survived in name until 1971. Then it too was retired, a casualty of the same forces. Both engines died too soon. Both deserved more time. But in the window they shared, 1970, only one was faster. The data is clear. The verdict, straight, clean, no hedging. In a street-legal, equal conditions quarter-mile in 1970, the Chevelle SS 454 LS6 beats the 426 Hemi Road Runner consistently in every documented independent test. Does that make the Hemi a loser? Absolutely not. The 426 is one of the greatest engines in American automotive history. It just met its match. Exactly once. The LS6 Chevelle is the fastest factory muscle car General Motors ever produced. Not the ZL1 Camaro, which was faster on paper but almost never raced stock. The LS6 Chevelle, in production trim, on the public record. For 1 year, in one car, Chevrolet built something that the entire muscle car world is still arguing about 54 years later. That's the LS6. That's the legacy. If you want the full story on the ZL1, the all-aluminum engine they tried to hide from the NHRA, that video is right there. It's the next chapter of this story, and you need to see it. Subscribe, hit the bell. The drag strip doesn't lie, and neither do we.